Alright, so to kick off this list, my second favorite film of 2013 is Justice League, The Flashpoint Paradox. And I know a lot of people might be saying, oh, this movie doesn't count, it's an animated movie, it's straight to DVD, it doesn't count at all. Well, like I mentioned in my intro video, this is my list of the films that I like the most this year. This is a list of my favorite movies of 2013, so, it's my list, my rules, and the criteria to fit this list is it had to be a movie that was released in 2013, and it has to be a movie that I really, really liked. No shit to both of those, pieces, or both of those rules. And this fits that criteria. It was a movie that was released in 2013, late July, I believe, and, I really, really liked it enough to put it on this list to consider one of my favorite movies of 2013. So it fits that criteria. I don't care if it's a straight-to-DVD movie. I don't care if it's an animated movie. It's still a movie. So, and it came out this year, and I really liked it, so it's one of my favorite movies of the year. I'm going to explain to you why it was one of my favorite movies right now. So let's get right to that. Now, you guys all know by this point. If you don't, then I'm going to let you in on this. I love DC animated, the straight-to-DVD DC animated movies. I've yet to see one that I absolutely despise, absolutely just did not like at all. That's yet to happen, and I don't think such a thing can exist. There was a lot of DC animated movies which I didn't enjoy, and I just didn't really like, but there were never ones that I absolutely hated. I don't think I've given any DC animated movie, below, a 5, or a 6 out of 10. I love each and every, almost every single DC animated movie. A big majority of the ones I absolutely love. And I love the DC animated straight-to-DVD movies. But not enough to buy them when they first come out. I try to watch them, online. I try to just watch them for free before I buy them, because what if I end up buying, one of those not-so-good ones that I mentioned before? So I try to watch these online. That's what I did with the Flashpoint Paradox. But after watching it, I now have to, go out and buy this. I watched this very recently online, and I'm really kicking myself for not buying it, because this movie just kicks all kinds of ass, and this movie is just fantastic. Now, something about these DC animated movies that a lot don't really know is that these are really not made for kids at all. They can be, kids can watch it and they'll enjoy it, but these are not really intended for kids. These are intended for a lot more adult or older audiences. They're fans of DC comic books and these DC characters. This movie definitely proved that, because this movie is not for kids. If you're a parent out there who is, walking through a Target or whatever, and sees this and says, oh, hey, it's Justice League, and it's a cartoon, my kid will love it, you're sadly mistaken, because this movie is not at all for kids. And this is kind of a complaint I have. It's not really a complaint I have, but it's something I just have to warn you guys about. This movie is incredibly graphic, and this movie is incredibly violent and gory and bloody. This movie is ridiculous with some of its, gore and violence, but I actually kind of like that, and actually kind of fits it, and I'm going to explain why. So this movie has decapitations, people being impaled, people being shot through the head. It's ridiculous. By the end of the movie, it's a bloodbath. Literally a bloodbath. You can bathe in just the utter bloodshed in this movie. It makes Saving Private Ryan look like a Care Bears episode. Okay, not quite, but it's almost there. The movie's incredibly just violent and graphic and dark, but I like that because the whole movie takes place in an alternate timeline of the DC universe where everything is just bleak and grim and dark, so I kind of like that. I thought it very much fit this whole very dark and violent, bleak DC universe, and the more talk about that, I should probably get into the story about this and the whole what this movie is in general. This movie is a it is an adaptation of the Justice League Flashpoint comic arc from the Justice League comic books. And that whole comic arc was the segue into the whole reboot of the DC comic book, which was the New 52. And my thoughts on the New 52, I don't entirely agree on it. I don't really think you need to have a place to start for it in comic books. I don't really agree on that all that much, but that, I digress. But this story arc was this big again, segue into the whole relaunch and reboot of the DC comic books. And they seem to be doing that now with the animated movies. The upcoming Justice League War is an adaptation of the first Justice League arc in the New 52, which was the whole origin of that Justice League and them going up against Darkseid. And you can bet your sweet ass I am buying that movie when it comes out. I mean, this movie proved anything. I completely regret not buying these movies on launch, and that this movie made me want to go buy that movie on launch. The movie's coming out February 4th, if any of you guys are wondering. I'm not just buying it on DVD, I'm buying it on Blu-ray and DVD, so that shows you how serious I am about this. But back to the movie. The whole Flashpoint series was an introduction to the New 52, and they do that, and they are now doing that with the animated movies, because Justice League War has a lot of the designs with the costumes and a lot of with the characters from the New 52, which, you know, I'm kind of mixed about. Like, I like that they're sort of it just seems, I don't like it all that much because it seems like a big advertisement just to get people, you know, it just seems like a big advertisement for people to go out and, you know, go buy New 52 comics. Like, oh, hey, here's a new Justice League animated movie. By the way, go out and, you know, read the New 52 comics or else you're not going to appreciate this movie at all. So my hopes for Justice League War is that you don't really need to appreciate or read the New 52 comics. I don't. I read a lot of trades and old comic issues. I don't buy like the single issue comics from New 52. I'm not a New 52 reader. I read a lot of old comic books and trades, like I mentioned before. So my hopes for Justice League War is that you don't have to have read the comic book arcs or the New 52 in general to appreciate this movie. I hope you can just go on that movie with an open mind, not knowing a whole lot about the New 52 at all. So that's my hopes for it. But I do like that they're, you know, introducing the New 52 to people, like, hey, this is a thing. So that's, you know, nice, I guess, but I really hope that they're not going to abandon a lot of the other story arcs from the original DC continuity. They're not just going, you know, first, you know, they're not just going head first into the New 52 stuff. I still hope that they are going to, you know, tell stories from the original DC continuity and not just go, you know, straight ahead with the New 52 stuff. So I hope that they, you know, my hopes for these new DC animated movies is that they can get me engrossed into the New 52 and actually get me intrigued to read the New 52 comics, but also I hope that they don't just go with New 52 story arcs in that continuity, and I hope they stay, you know, with the original continuity DC comics and make story arcs from that and make new stories and take elements from other stories and make new stories from those comics. So, you know, those are my hopes. My, you know, cons about this whole New 52 relaunch with both the comic books and with the animated movies, and some of my expectations and hopes for them. But back to the movie. I went off on a completely different angle. But this movie I enjoyed a whole lot because it didn't seem like it needed to be straight to DVD. Like, if this was released in theaters, I could definitely see why. Because the movie just felt like it had a very cinematic, very epic, just more than just a cartoon feel to it. It felt very, very epic. It felt like a lot was on the line. Like, the whole timeline, the whole world was going to be completely obliterated in this movie. So the risks were pretty high in this movie. And that's the thing about this movie I really, really enjoyed. Like, we've seen the Justice League go up against, you know, alternate, you know, realities and alternate dimensions and alternate, you know, worlds and whatever. But we never saw them do, like, an alternate timeline. And that's the thing about this movie I really enjoyed. At first, you think it's like an alternate timeline. There's just an alternate world and an alternate dimension, but it's an alternate timeline itself. So the world that might be obliterated and the world that might be destroyed is the main universe and the main center of everything. So that was so again, the risks were pretty high for that. That was a nice change up from a lot of these DC animated movies that I really enjoyed. And something about this movie I also liked is that it made me appreciate the character of the Flash just a little bit more. Like, I never knew before going into this movie that the Flash had the powers to go back in time. The dude runs so fast he can run back in time. That's pretty impressive. And I never appreciated the Flash before going into this movie because he can just run really fast. And again, I had no knowledge that he can go back in time. It's pretty awesome superpower. So this movie did make me appreciate the Flash a lot. And I really wish that it wasn't called Justice League, the Flashpoint Paradox. I really wish it was just called the Flashpoint Paradox, because it's really more of a film about the Flash, or Barry Allen Flash at least. The Justice League in this, like, the Justice League is in it in the beginning, but the Justice League that you see throughout the whole movie isn't really the Justice League. They're never really mentioned as a Justice League. It's more of a disbanded and lackluster Justice League. Like, Batman is in there, and Cyborg, and the Shazam kids. That's really about it. It's not really the Justice League, and I wish it just ended up calling the movie Flashpoint Paradox, or just Flashpoint. I know that the original comic story arc is called Justice League, but if you could change up some other stuff in this movie, I think that's one thing that you could have changed, is called it the Flashpoint Paradox and made it an animated Flash movie. Because Flash hasn't gotten an animated movie yet. Why, I have no idea. But that's something I really wish they had called this movie, just the Flashpoint Paradox. Because Justice League doesn't really have... It's not really present in the movie, the Justice League. I mean, they're kind of there, but again, very disbanded, very lackluster version of it. It's just kind of weird. The other thing I didn't really like about this movie either was the animation. It looked very odd. Like, in certain places, it looked pretty cool. You know, in certain places, it looks great. It's not horrible animation, but the heads look so weird and so small compared to the characters' bodies. Mostly with Superman and Aquaman. At least Superman in the beginning, not in the alternate timeline. But Aquaman's head looked too small for his body. It was very, very weird. And a lot of the characters' faces didn't look like they were drawn correctly. They looked really odd and really weird. The animation just looked odd for in a lot of sections of the film, but it also looked very nice in a lot of sections of the film. But it was very odd in some places, and that's something I didn't really appreciate all that well. But something that this movie is awesome for is that it has two characters, at least, from Young Justice, so that's a big plus in my book, which is Calderam, or Aqualad, and Tula from Young Justice, and she's alive in this movie, but in Young Justice, she's kind of, well, for lack of better words, seafood. Catch my drift. No pun intended there, but for the whole seafood thing, yeah. Because drift, get it like an ocean, yeah. Shut up! You probably make worse jokes, but anyways, that was cool seeing. That was really, really cool seeing. And with Young Justice being canceled this year, I was so happy to see that these two characters were in this movie. And the movie's directed by Jay Olivia, who directed both The Dark Knight Returns Part 1 and 2 animated movies. But he also directed a number of episodes from Young Justice, so that's why he probably slipped them in there. It would have, you know, it makes sense. They get killed, though. That kind of pissed me off. Yeah, that really pissed me off. But I'm glad that he is showing that this show still has a strong presence in the DC animated universe. So that was something I really loved about this movie. That was a big plus in my book. The movie just overall just felt really epic, and it felt more like an actual movie instead of just an animated movie. That's some complaint that I have with a couple of these DC anime movies, which is that a lot of them do feel like, oh yeah, that's an animated movie. Yeah, it makes sense why it was straight to DVD. But this one felt like it was this could have been released in theaters, and it could have, and I would have accepted that. Like, yes, this needed to be in theaters. I think the only other ones that have done that are like Under the Red Hood or The Dark Knight Part 1 and 2. Those are the only other ones where I was like, that could be in theaters, and I could totally understand why. So that's the reason why I love this a lot. This movie I just thought was great. It was epic. It felt bigger than just an animated movie. Like, if this was, again, in theaters or even in live action, I could totally understand why. It's a great animated movie. I highly recommend it to any fans of The Flash. Maybe care about the Flash character. Like, people say Aquaman is a useless character. Like, oh, he's just useless. What can he do? He can call fish. It's stupid. But the dude is the king of the sea, king of Atlantis. He's king of the ocean, which encompasses about over 70% of the world. How does that not come in handy? The dude can generate water out of thin air. He's practically a waterbender. He really is that. He's a waterbender. The dude has arm cut off, and he made a water kind of arm back. Like, he's a useless character, but the Flash isn't. The Flash isn't. Aquaman's a useless character, but the Flash isn't. The dude runs fast. He's the king of the friggin' sea. He's super strong. He has super speed. Flash can just run fast, but this movie proved that he can do more than just run fast. He can run so fast, he can go back in time. And that was another thing about this movie that was really, it actually made me very sad and almost teary-eyed, which was, in the movie, the whole problem that the whole thing that causes this alternate timeline, this rift in reality, is that he goes back in time and stops his mother's death and stops his mother from dying. Now in the comic arc, it was Professor Zoom, the villain in this movie, that ended up killing his mom. But in this movie, they leave it very ambiguous. They don't really tell you, which I actually liked a little bit more. But in this movie, he, like I mentioned, it's his mom, him keeping his mother from dying that causes this alternate timeline. In the movie, at the end, he has to let his mom die, and he has to technically kill his mom to keep the world from just going to utter shit, which is really sad. And again, it almost made me teary-eyed, and it could probably make a lot of big, fat Flash fans out there, very teary-eyed and very sad. It was just a very sad movie. It's a very emotionally, powerful movie. It'll leave you just almost crying at the end. It's just a very, very graphic and very violent movie. And again, I don't see why it needs to be an animated straight DVD movie. It could be in theaters for all I know. Another thing I loved about this movie was Batman in this movie. Now, I want to mention, this is an alternate timeline. This is an alternate reality. So, the Batman in this is not the Batman that any of us big Batman fans have grown up knowing. In this alternate timeline, it was not Thomas or Martha Wayne that were shot. It was, in fact, Bruce Wayne. So, Thomas Wayne, when, Thomas Wayne witnesses his son being murdered, that, inspires him to become Batman. Although, why him being Batman? It made sense for Bruce Wayne to become Batman because Bruce was afraid of bats, and he wanted to inflict his fear on the criminals of Gotham. But why Thomas Wayne Batman? Just kind of makes weird. Don't you think he would shoot, maybe another animal? But I digress. But he becomes Batman, but it's not like Bruce Wayne's Batman where he doesn't use guns and he doesn't kill people. He does everything that Bruce Wayne Batman doesn't do, and yet he still is awesome. He uses guns, he's an alcoholic, he's not at all as smart or technologically advanced as that Batman is, and he kills people. He kills a huge number of people in this movie. At the end of the movie, he shoots Professor Zoom, or, Reverse Flash, in the head, and they pan up and you see the hole where that bullet came out of. It's, again, a hugely graphic movie. Definitely not for little kids. You buy this for a little kid, they'll cry their eyes out. Not because it's emotionally powerful or anything, because they're shitting their pants afraid of this movie. It's ridiculously graphic, but I still love that. This Batman was nothing like the Batman in, Bruce Wayne's Batman, but he's still a kick-ass, awesome Batman. It's just so nice seeing a different kind of Batman. I'm so used to Bruce Wayne Batman. I've never seen any other Batman like this. Well, maybe Terry McGinnis Batman, but he was nothing like this Batman. This Batman was insane. People say that, oh, Batman, he's just crazy as the characters, as the people he puts in jail. This guy proves that fact completely. He is ridiculous. And I mentioned that Thomas and Martha Wayne were not the ones that were shot in Crime Alley that night, and we know what happens to Thomas Wayne, so you're probably wondering what happens to Martha Wayne. Well, I don't want to spoil it for you, and again, that proves something. I spoil everything for you guys, but I do not want to spoil it at all. They don't come out and say, oh, this is what happened to Martha Wayne. They don't do that at all in this movie, but, when you see what happens to her, oh shit, that's what happened to her? That's ridiculous. I know a lot of Batman fans will probably be crying foul of that, that's stupid, that's ridiculous, but it was a huge plot twist, and I love that plot twist. I thought it was great. But this Batman in this movie was awesome. This movie overall was awesome, so that's why I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. It has some problems, but overall, it's a great, great movie. And it's definitely up there with some of DC Animated's best films, like Under the Red Hood. I would even argue that it's better than some of those movies. It might be my favorite DC animated movie ever. It might be. I think I need to rewatch a lot of the other DC animated movies to see if that fact is, correct. But I don't know. It's a great animated movie. Great movie if you're a big Flash fan, if you're a big Justice League fan, if you're just a fan of these DC animated movies. Definitely watch it because it is great. I highly recommend it. 9 out of 10. It's a great, great movie. So that does it for my second favorite film this year. So I'll be getting, next video, my favorite movie of the year, which I've said a billion times over. you know, what my favorite movie of the year probably is, so you probably already can guess what it is, but I'm not going to mention it until I get to that video. So I'll see you guys next time with my number one favorite movie of the year. So I'll see you guys then.